interesting adage that has gained, quite a bit of popularity, and I think rightly so. Blood is thicker than water. These words cut across every culture. But many people don't know that that is not the original adage. The original adage actually says, "The blood of the oath is thicker than the water of the womb." Now think about it. The blood of the oath is thicker than the water of the womb. Almost completely opposite of blood is thicker than water. With blood is thicker than water, we can infer, and rightly so, that we're being told that people who share blood relationships, parent, children, sibling relationships, that these relationships tend to be rock solid and have more significance and importance than any other relationships formed by the people. And on the face of it, at first blush, it sounds accurate, but it isn't. It's actually a fallacy. A fallacy, a very basic way of explaining fallacy, a very common way of, just putting it across in a way that everybody will get what I mean. A fallacy is something that sounds as if it is right, but when you interrogate it just a little bit, you discover that there are inconsistencies and it can't be fact. So it is a fallacy that blood is thicker than water. Certainly, it is a situation that is desirable. It should be the ideal. But for those of us of Christian persuasion, you find that the blood is thicker than water thing is challenged right from the book of Genesis. When Cain, as a result of sibling rivalry, or in this case, just plain old sibling jealousy, just randomly killed his brother because he felt jealous that Abel was attracting more of God's favor than he, Cain. So right there and then, we see that the blood is thicker than water adage. Well, it doesn't quite stand right. However, the blood of the oath is thicker than the water of the womb. Let's examine that. What is it saying really? It is asking us to consider the fact that when two people form a bond of their own choosing, when two people are drawn to each other, maybe because they share similar interests, or whatever else it is they share that has attracted them to each other, that union, that bond, tends to be much stronger than even sibling relationships. You really want to interrogate this? Think about it. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up, I'm talking particularly to parents. Some of us have a tendency to take our relationship, that blood bond we have with our children, for granted. We think it should suffice. We think it should cover for everything. As a result, some of us get a bit unpleasant. We take out all our frustrations on our children, We yell at them, we call them names, we treat them shabbily. If we go out into the larger world, whatever frustrations we meet outside, we're bringing those home with us to empty on our children. Sometimes a child offends a parent, and you know, in our Nigerian society, corporal punishment is still very much alive and well, you know. And sometimes a child offends a parent. Sometimes it's actually something innocuous, something inconsequential, something that really doesn't matter in the scheme of things if you would only calm down. And some of us will beat that child black and blue while threatening the child. I brought you into this world and I'll definitely take you out of it if I need to. Thank God for His mercy. Many of these kids grow up, they come to understand that, listen, my parents are just human beings facing their own frustrations. They choose to be understanding. And they treat us well based on that. Besides, you can't have any other biological parents than the ones you already do have, the ones that brought you to this earth, that brought you into this world. That fact is unshakable. You know, even if they're, and the truth of it is, even if they're blatantly cruel, they hate your guts, they don't treat you well, they don't look out for you, they've never had your back, nothing can ever negate the fact that you share blood. To that extent, the blood is thicker than water adage stands true. There's no running away from DNA. There just isn't. However, is that enough to ensure the quality of the relationship between you and your child? Blood is not enough to secure the quality of the relationship. That requires work. I understand there are generational differences. There are cultural differences. There are situational differences. For instance, my generation grew up without the internet, without smart devices. You know, you were lucky to have television in the house. Usually it started at 4 p.m. and by 12 midnight or 1 a.m. max, it was over. And our parents before us had even fewer means of entertainment or distractions. The current generation, on the other hand, they have access to smartphones, the internet, television, you name it. They are bombarded with entertainment. And yes, we want them to be up and doing. We want them to be, you know, useful members of the household. We want them to engage. And we go to work, we come back, we're exhausted. And all you want to do after maybe preparing lunch or eating whatever after doing, you do the barest minimum and then you rest and rest and rest a lot. And then before you know it, a huge gap is being created. You're not really talking to each other in the house and so on and so forth. That could even be forgiven. That could be forgiven. But we need to be careful. Even when you're dealing with such challenges, you cannot afford to put yourself in a situation where you are outrightly hostile or violent to your child. It doesn't solve any problem. And yes, it is true, some of these youngsters can try everything you've got in your soul. Some will insult you, some get aggressive, some steal, some exhibit all kinds of bad behavior, some of which you don't even know where they got them from because you know you put the work into the parenting. So who is the stranger lounging in your house? You have to learn to manage that relationship. You cannot afford to meet recalcitrance with violence, with vile words. You cannot meet vile word for vile word. You can't. Certainly, find a way around the problem. Try talking to, especially when you're dealing with teenagers. Younger kids, yeah, I can understand it if, I'm a bit of a traditional mother myself. I get it when you administer a spanking here and there every now and then to much younger kids, as long as that is not the dominant culture of the household, that you're raising your child every single time something goes wrong. I get it, the odd spanking here and there once in a while when the children are really, really small. But as they get older and they have the capacity to reason through things, to think through things, as they develop a capacity to question and challenge things, you need to be willing and able to talk through problems and find proper solutions that go beyond merely scolding, unleashing your anger either physically or verbally. Those things don't work. And if you're not careful, the more you try to lean on such parenting tactics, the more your child begins to talk to people outside and form blood oaths with people outside that significantly watered down whatever womb connection should be there between you and your child, or even amongst themselves as siblings. So we also need to be on the lookout for the kinds of friends that our kids bring home. Instead of, having a wall up and shutting out their friends, encourage them to bring their friends home, so that at least you have an idea of the kinds of people they're hanging around with, because that's where those blood oaths are being formed if you're not careful. Who are the people that your children are choosing to hang around? Are you in a position to challenge or dislodge those relationships if you find that they're hanging with unsavory characters? What can you do to challenge the relationships they form with people they choose outside the home? If the only option or the only possible solution you have in your mind includes beatings, scoldings, and generally being frustrated and not knowing what next to do and so on and so forth, you might want to have a serious rethink. At the end of the day, these people are growing into young adults. They're facing a lot of temptations. They're facing a lot of challenges. And we cannot afford to pretend that these challenges, these situations, these problems are inconsequential, that they don't mean anything. And I think that beatings there just comes a time when beatings don't do anything, no matter how aggressive you get, no matter how violent you get. In fact, the opposite might be achieved. You might harden the person in that particular behavior. So try to engage. It's hard, I know. It's hard. Most times you're just tired. You just want to rest. But when you can, every now and then, have the conversation. Ask those questions that you don't really want the answers to. Your daughter is in university. Do you know if she's in a relationship? Do you know if the relationship is sexual in nature? You don't want to know, but you need to know what the kinds of friends that she has. Are they the right kind? Are they the kind that will help her with her academics, or they're the ones who will pull her into the selfie, social media, things that distract her from what she's supposed to be doing? What about our sons? We cannot say we're going to rely completely on the blood link. We have to go the extra mile. And I'm acknowledging as a parent that it is difficult. But I'm also saying that no good thing comes easy. I have to put in the work to be sure that the first adage, blood is thicker than water, is what actually applies in your household. And like I always conclude, I don't have all the answers. Nobody does. These are just my thoughts. And if they work for you, I hope you're listening. Have a lovely day.